everybody? This is Shane from Ferocious Fatherhood out here doing another video. Today, I got Lee Kaburis on the video with me. Lee, welcome to the show, brother.
Hey Shane, how you doing, man?
I'm doing very well. How about you?
I'm good. I'm good.
Yeah, y'all recovering from the holidays? Or are you still taking a little break?
Yeah, yes. I'm still on holidays, which is which is great. I'm dreading the start of next week. Like most people do when the holidays are over. They always
Yep.
seem too short, right?
Yeah, they're always too short. You don't. If you take full advantage of what you're given, then you can really maximize your time. It's never enough, right?
No, never enough. Never enough.
Cool. So, Lee, take a minute, kind of introduce yourself, your background, what you do, and we'll dive into these questions, bro.
For sure. So hey guys, so my name is Lee. So I'm a husband and a dad of two. Been married for over 22 years now. I have an 18-year-old and a 15-year-old daughter. My background in terms of career-wise is I've been in the tech industry, degree in computer science. I work in the video gaming industry as a senior leader. And I'm also someone who's been very, very deeply into being physically active and fit. I started martial arts when I was 12 years old, started teaching when I was about 15. I still do a couple times a week. Kind of slowed down on that when COVID hit, obviously. But I also really got into health and fitness, and I do health and fitness coaching, and I've been doing that for about 15, 16 years now as well too. And I enjoy doing that because it's something that I find that's really important to help people live their best lives, reach their goals. And for me, it's a way that I can help, give back to help
Mhm.
share my knowledge in terms of what I've learned for health and fitness, and to help me stay feeling like a 20-year-old, and I'm in my 50s. So that's it.
Yeah, that's so awesome. I love the you and I were talking just a minute ago, and I love the connection between needing to stay mentally physically fit in order to stay mentally fit. And I absolutely love that. And I want to dive into that a little later. However, I kind of want to go back and kind of hear what your childhood was like, what major lessons you learned from your father, with your father in your life, and what was y'all's relationship like, and then we'll kind of go from there.
Yeah, for sure. So yeah, I can say I'm very blessed in terms of that. I've had a great family life. Both my parents are actually still alive. They're living. My dad just turned 90 a few months ago.
Wow,
Uh,
good for him.
yeah. So yeah, definitely growing up was great. From my dad, I essentially learned how to work hard, but always enjoy life with the ones you love.
Mhm.
And he was a kind of dad too. He always had a calm demeanor, right? He was calm demeanor, and he was always into being calm and treating people right. So I took a lot of those aspects from my dad. Not really a person who would raise his voice or things like that, right? So yeah, that's in terms of the main aspects. Those are the major lessons I learned. Work hard, enjoy life, make sure you spend time with the people who are important to you, and treat people with respect, right?
Yeah, that's really awesome. So, was your father into martial arts as well?
No, he was not. He was not.
Okay,
So my parents are of Greek origin. So my parents were Greek immigrants
okay,
to North America. So no, my dad was actually worked most of his life in the phone company.
okay.
Yeah.
Well, I would say the reason I asked that is it sounds like a lot of traits I see in people who do martial arts were kind of like what your father passed down to you,
Hmm.
like the being calm, not necessarily raising your voice. I found that like the people that I know that have done martial arts, they're capable of doing this great violence if need to, but they're able to restrain it, keep it so just in place. And that to me has always been impressive.
Yeah, I mean, if I can make a correlation that's become, I guess, prevalent again in modern times. I'm more of the school of Miyagi-Do versus Cobra
Okay.
Kai. You know,
Yeah.
that's kind of the kind of upbringing I got, not only from my dad, but my martial arts teacher as well too, right? Very
Hmm.
respectful, very very in tune with things like that.
Yeah. That's awesome. So then, did you have kind of growing up outside of your father? Did you have a strong relationship with any other strong male role models?
Yeah, I did. I mean, for me, it was like I said, it was my martial arts teacher.
Hmm.
Him too. We had a very good relationship. Besides honor, respect, and humility, I also learned from him. I learned a real important lesson. Is that no matter how much you think you know, there's always more to learn, right? And
Mm-hmm.
one of the best ways to learn was to teach,
Mm-hmm.
uh, because he told me that by teaching, you learn different ways to think about a problem because not everybody approaches something in the same way. So you have to become creative in how to help someone, overcome something or learn something. So he told me, he learned as much from me as I learned from him. So that's why, for me, I continue to teach martial arts, and why I got into coaching people as well, because I
Mm-hmm.
love to. It's an aspect, a way I try and learn as well.
Yeah, that's a really good point. So at my job, we try to do the same thing. We try. I'm in the military, so we try like whenever we get our new folks in and we teach them something, we then try to get them to teach it to kind of everybody else, and so that way they can really cement their minds, and everyone else kind of gets a refresher. So you're spot on when you say like the teaching really helps you learn as well. That's really awesome. Did you outside of your martial arts, did you have like any coaches or anything like that?
Um, not so much. I mean, my key people were my dad and my martial arts teacher in terms of growing
Mm-hmm.
up. I mean, I had various, like, say, teachers, and coaches at school, but they were the two primary male figures in my life.
Mm-hmm. I think it's interesting that we, not necessarily at the time, will see how important coaches or other instructors, martial arts instructors, are in our lives. And then looking back at it, we see like, wow, they really kind of influenced me in this way or in that way. And I think it's really important for dads and fathers to understand that if you're in that role of a coach or some sort of instructor for young children, you are really molding the future. You're really a part of what's going to happen.
Yeah, yeah, no, for sure, and definitely, I find it's very important, at the young age, like you said, because you mold the future. I mean, I have had coaches and mentors later in life that I totally respect and I totally learned a lot from as well too, right? But yes, the formative years are so important,
Mm,
which makes us
yep.
dads so important, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. So, what are some core values that you incorporate into your fathering style with your daughters?
Yeah, for me, what I really try and do with my daughters is I really want to try and be involved. Right, the core values I try and teach them is that you need to work hard,
Mhm.
right? But you also need to play hard, right? You can't let work overtake your life. I teach them, that you need to also be respectful and responsible, right? These are the core values that I try and teach my kids. Treating people right, treat someone how you want to be treated, right? I've used that lesson with my daughters, as they were growing up myself too. Would you want to do this to someone? Would you want someone to do this to you? Right, and let them think and decide, and see, what's the right way to go. And also, having open communications, right? I think that's what I find is more present nowadays than when, I was growing up, is that the parent-child relationship uh, tends to be more open, uh,
Mhm.
depending on how the parenting style is. But I think there's more push towards having open relationships, and I find that that's really important. I try and make sure we talk about our days. Now my dad was, very into, everybody's at the dinner table every night, right?
Mhm.
We don't, no one takes off and sits and eats on their own or watches TV or what have you. We're sitting at the dinner table and we're talking. We go over our days and stuff. And I still do that with my family
Mhm.
and my kids. So those are some of the big lessons I try and do. And I try and make sure I I teach them as by example, right? So they see me how I work, right? They see that, yes, I do have a job where, it's very stressful. I deal with very high profile things and stuff, but they see how especially now when I've been from COVID, they see how I
Hmm.
interact with my employees, with my colleagues, with the people I work with. They see the demeanor I have, and they also see that, I do draw the line, and I make the real cut from, it works off. I'm shutting off the phone or the emails,
Hmm.
whatever like that, and it's, I'm here for you, right? Or it's
Hmm.
family time, right? So I like to make sure they understand that those aspects in there, and
Yeah.
for example, and then not only there, right, but in health and fitness as well. They see me and my wife, trying to eat healthy as much as possible, preparing healthy meals, doing our workouts, whatever it is, right? So they've grown up with this, right? And they see it,
Hmm.
and hopefully it's embedded and will be a part of their lives growing on into the future, right?
Hmm. I think it's so important for kids, especially as young as possible, to start seeing their parents in the gym. I take my 4-year-old son as much as I can to the gym. I'm working out on Saturday morning, Sunday afternoon, whatever. I have him there. I have him. I mean, not granted, we're not. I alter the workout a little bit, but I mean, he's out there. He's seeing strong men being in the gym, lifting, and not compromising, and really getting after it. I think that's really important. Do you
Yeah,
get to? I mean, it sounds like you've incorporated that with your children. Do
I
you
do. I
get
do.
to? Yeah, go ahead.
No, I was gonna say I had the same experience because I would work out primarily from home, besides
Mm-hmm.
my martial arts. Well, even my martial arts, but I would still train at home. But so my daughters would see me working out, and they would join in with me sometimes. I still have vivid memories of my oldest daughter joining in when I was doing a workout, and she would see me. I have my water bottle. I take a break, a drink. She had her little sippy cup of milk. She would do whatever she could, and have a little sip. She was mimicking me, right?
Mm-hmm. Yep. We found little like 5 pound dumbbells that we take out there, and if I'm out there, shoulder pressing or whatever, my son's right there with me doing his, and whatever. If we're doing burpees, he's right there doing burpees with me.
There you go. Yeah, yeah. No,
Have
it's always
you?
fun.
Yeah, and I also think that's super important. You mentioned about allowing your kids to see you work. I think that's super important as well because they can see like, hey, this is how you interact with somebody. It's important that you show respect and you give respect back. And if they're not respecting you, hey, like you said, like draw a line. Say, hey, this is not acceptable. And I think
Yeah,
it's really important for your kids to see that.
yeah. I think if there's if there's any positive of what happened with COVID in the past few years is that from working from home and them being schooled from home, right, and stuff too, um, during COVID, they actually saw how both myself and my wife work and interact with people, which they would never see unless you have
Mm-hmm.
like a career day or a work day where you bring your kid to work or something like that,
Mm-hmm.
right? And even then, it's not exactly your full work. Here, they see you doing your full work, right? Whatever
Yeah,
it
yeah.
is.
Yep. They see you once you wake up and you really start grinding, and yeah,
Yeah.
they really get to see it all. Yeah, that's all. So, what are some of the hardest problems that you faced as a father?
Some of the hardest problems I faced as a father. I find with one of the hardest problems I faced originally was to have time for everything, right? Everybody gets so busy with, their work, all the chores they got to do. You get as a parent, right? You get caught up in the whole whirlwind of, oh, it's Monday morning. All right, you got to get up, get the kids out of bed, get breakfast, get them to school, pack their bags. Then, oh, you get to your office or whatever it is. You come home, or pick up the kids, whatever it is. Oh, geez, you got to start getting supper ready, this, that. By the time everything, homework, oh, everything, by the time that's all done, it's like, 9, 10 o'clock at night. And you've got like what, if do you have 5, 10 minutes for yourself to like,
Mm-hmm.
you know, veg or like just be with yourself, and then it starts all over again, right? So I think a lot of the hardships of being a parent was to juggle all that and still have quality time with your kids, right? And that's where, for me, like I told you, where I found, um, you know, making sure I set the time aside for myself to to be mentally and physically fit helped me organize everything
Mm-hmm.
else. For me, the way I would do it is like I take my time for myself first thing in the morning. I'll get
Mm-hmm.
up before everybody else. I'll do my workout. I'll do whatever meditation, if anything I need to do, right? And I'm set. I'm set for the day. I've got my positive energy going, and then I make sure I am present and able to take care of everything else I need to in the day. So it was all about the time management, and it wasn't
Mm-hmm.
always that easy, right? I had to go through a period of time where, you know, when I first started to get, like, let's say, heavily into my health and fitness, I was doing it at nighttime because as a kid, I grew up training in the martial arts at night. My classes were always up after school or whatever it was, right? So I'm like, I was always like training like that. My wife said, we don't see you because you're doing your stuff. You know, how are we going to change this around? So I'm like, I just changed my whole process around. It did everything in the morning, and it just made such a big difference for me
Mm-hmm.
in terms of getting my me time in early in the day before everybody else is up, and then I was able to be so much more present and focused. So that was the hardest thing for me as a father, making sure I had the time to be there and be
Mm-hmm.
focused and present. And then once I figured out the time aspect, it was like I was just all in, right? I love doing things with my daughters, and for me it was about getting involved from, you know, from playing with Barbies and princesses to like to helping them with their homework, to, you know, talking about problems with their friends or what have you, or things going on at school. You know, I'd like to be involved as much as possible.
Mm-hmm. I think a lot of dads miss that aspect because they get focused on, hey, I need to work, make money, do this role as a man, as a father, dad, whatever. And a lot of people miss that you have to take care of yourself because if you fall apart, everything else falls.
Yeah, yeah.
Everything will fall apart if you're not good.
Yeah, I tried to think of it in a way as, for me, the most important thing with my family, and still the case, is that I want to make sure I spend as much time with them as possible, because, you know, one day they all grow up, one day they all go their own separate ways. So I want to cherish it as much as possible. And, you know,
Mm-hmm.
one of the ways I'll be able to cherish it best is to make sure I'm at my best so that I can be there and really focus and spend quality time, right?
Yeah, and that's a key, huge key aspect right there. That quality time you can spend. If you're spending 30 minutes with your kids, but you're not spending quality time, then you can potentially be hurting your relationship. But if you're putting in that quality time, that's really where it comes into play. Where it, that's way more important than quantity.
Yeah, yeah. No, and like I told you, you know, my daughters are older now too, like 15 and 18, you know, and I loved it when I was a dad. I would come home from work, and you know, my kids would just come running to me, Daddy, right? And hug me and kiss me and stuff like that. And you know, I've built a relationship with my daughters and stuff that, you know, they still do come and say hello
Mm-hmm.
to me, and then, and talk to me and stuff when I get home or whatever it is, right? And we have great relationships that way. I mean, so much to the point where, you know, we still do things together.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I raised my kids to be into certain things too. Like, my daughters both love Harry Potter, right? So
Okay.
even to this day, you know, we sometimes do like Harry Potter marathons. We watch the movies and stuff, and we got ourselves like a little Harry Potter Lego set over the holidays. And my daughters, 15 and 18, are excited to say, Dad, when are we gonna sit down and make a Lego set, and then
Mm-hmm.
we'll watch a movie based on it or something like that.
Mm-hmm.
So again,
That's cool.
it's little bonding time with
Yeah,
Daddy.
it's always interesting to me to hear like the little things that kids really stick to. Because like for myself, kind of what you're talking about. I when I was growing up, did the same thing with my dad. He would come home, I'd go running out the door, hug him, whatever. He was a volunteer firefighter, so he'd come home from a fire call, and I'd go out and give a big hug. I still do that to this day. I mean, they live on the east coast of the states, and I'm out, I'm out in Utah. So even when they come and visit me, like I'm running outside, giving them as big a hug as I can. They have an RV, and they'll bring their RV to a local park, and I'll call the park. I'll find out what spot they're staying in. And then me and my wife would go out there, we decorate the spot, and then we're there like right when they come in. So it's really cool that your daughters do that, and hopefully they'll continue to do that forever.
Yeah, yeah. I figure, if I've made it into the teens, I should be good at this point.
Yeah, yeah. I know for boys, there's a time between maybe 15, 16 until they hit about 20, where we just go do stupid stuff and do our thing. And then once we hit like 2021, we kind of start to come around and come back to our family and start
Yeah.
to normalize a little, a little bit at least.
Yeah. And I think that's something but you bring up a great point. That's something as dads that we got to remember, right? We too went through those kind of phases, right? And you got to remember that, you got to give your kids space to go through those phases as well, right?
Mm-hmm. Yep. And my parents they'll bring it up every now and then, like, hey, remember when you said this? Yeah. How do you feel about that now? Like, yeah, that was pretty dumb. I'm sorry I said
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
that. That's really funny. But yeah, that finding time, that is really important. I think you have to find. I think we're kind of seeing in culture where we're kind of stepping away from. I'm seeing like little bits and pieces of it where we're stepping away from focusing so much on career and kind of slipping back into like, hey, when I'm off work, I'm off work. I'm not taking a business call at 8 o'clock. I'm not doing this stuff because it really does affect you.
Yeah.
I'm on call every now and then at work. It can weigh on you to have to do something at 8:30 at night for an hour and a half, whatever, and come back home at that time.
Yeah.
So I'd like to see us as a society get back to of like, hey, work is not the most important thing. This here, my house, is the most important thing.
Yeah.
Have you started to see that at all?
I have actually, and I'm fortunate too. I'm in an industry that's very conscious of work-life balance as well too. So thankfully, it's something that's very encouraged in my industry as well too. And you need to have the proper leaders in place too, right, to exemplify it, right? I mean, that's why I try and like I said, I'm a leader in my industry, so I try and make sure I show to my team that it's kind of almost with my kids, right? I practice what I preach, right? I'm the example. I'm not going to be the person sending an email at 7 o'clock at night, right? I'm cutting it off at at
Mm-hmm.
5, 6 o'clock, whatever it is, right? And I set that example too. And I think it's very important. But you also bring something up too about work. Another lesson that I try and really teach my kids too is, sometimes kids also get pressures from their parents, right? In terms of what to be, what to do, right? I'm of the mindset, that I want my kids to be happy doing whatever it is they choose to do. So to find a job, which for them, won't feel like work when they're actually doing it, right? To lean into things that they like to do, right? It's always going to be a job to a certain extent, but if you're working in something that you like to do, right? I give him the example of me. I always loved video games from the time I was a kid. I'm a video game producer now, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I mean, I'm doing what I've loved, right? And I try and give that kind of example to them as well too, to follow what they want to do in life. Yes, my wife and I try and give them some guidance, right? But essentially, we try and give that kind of mentality to them as well.
Right. And I'm sure it can be at times. Your kids are older than mine, but I'm sure it can be at times maybe harder to kind of sit back and allow them to do those. I mean, did your kids get involved in like sports or something and then or a sport and then wish that they didn't and kind of try to step out of it? Like
Yeah,
did you have that struggle with them?
yeah, I've had that struggle with them, and look, we've had the discussions, and we've what seems to make more sense for them at this point, and we told them,
Mm-hmm.
it's not a big deal, right? But we talk about the pros and cons. Here's what happens if you leave. Here's what happens if you stay. Here are the benefits of this. Here are the benefits of not doing this, right? And we take it as it goes. Life raising kids is organic, right? The important thing, like we were talking about, is that we're there for them. to help them discuss it, to help them make the decisions. Because, it might have worked a certain way for us growing up, right? We might have gone through a certain thing. It's not going to be exactly the same for them. For instance, I was someone who I knew what I wanted to do from when I was a kid. My daughters might not be the same way. My oldest one right now, she's not 100% sure where she wants to major, right? So I have to go through that kind of discussion with them, right?
Yeah, absolutely. And you said something earlier that I want to go back to. You said that it's organic. I mean, me and my wife will start getting this, like when we're trying to solve a problem, we get in this problem-solving mode. We start like just pushing forward. Okay, come up with plans. This is what we need to do, and then we just kind of every now and then we'll take a step back and like, this is our kid. Like we know what to do. We know what we need to do. We've got this, And I mean, I don't really know how else to say it, but like it's so important for dads to just know it's okay. Like you're going to figure this out. There's not a point to necessarily plan everything to death. Have you experienced that?
Yeah, I mean, look, we all make mistakes, right? Nobody's gonna be the perfect father. Nobody is gonna be the perfect mother. Nobody's gonna have all the answers, right? You gotta try and make your best decision, take best action with what you know, and try and do it, with as open a mind as possible, with as much discussion as possible with your child.
Mm-hmm. And then at some point, you got to make a decision. You have to be able to act and be decisive.
Yeah, and sometimes it's more important to make a decision quick. And if it's the wrong decision, well, at least you learned it's the wrong decision quick, and learn from the mistake, and take the other path.
Yep. And in the end, like you're going to be okay. Yeah. You really will be okay. And even if you're not okay, like, you're still okay. Sort of, a catastrophe happening, people dying. You will figure it out. Everything's going to be okay. We've been raising kids for, I don't know, millions, billions, whatever years. We've got this. We can figure this out.
Yeah, well, for sure.
All right, and then you touched on this a little bit earlier, but what are some of the best ways that you stay actively engaged with your
children? Well, for me, it's scheduling regular times to do things that interest us, right? So outside of the schoolwork and all that stuff, I would have times with my daughters that we would, for instance, schedule time. Hey, let's watch a certain movie or TV series or something, right? Or yeah, I'm the dad who would say like, which Barbie movie do you want to watch or whatever?
Okay, yeah.
You're right. Or schedule time to like, do an activity. Like for us, it's very important. Like as a family, we still try and do things together. Like we just went together with my daughters and some of our family, and we do escape rooms, for instance, and we love doing these kind of like things where we all work together to do things and have fun. So I think that's really important for me. It's scheduling time to do things that interest you and your kids, or that you want to show them with, be it go for a hike, take a bike ride, do some type of sports, whatever it is. And I say things like that may sound trivial, but let's be honest, in today's day and world, it's really hard sometimes to get kids away from this, right? To get them out to do things like that. So that's why we try and schedule things that get done.
And it's so hard to get kids away from that because, my generation, like 33, I've had myself since I was 16. So my kids have always seen me with a phone. Whereas it wasn't until I was 16, 18, something like that, I saw my parents with the phone. So for them, they weren't as interested in utilizing it. But like my kids, like they're going to have a hard time growing up because me and my wife are not on the phone a lot, participate with their kids. So I'm interested to see how that pans out with our kids and technology. And then you brought up the escape rooms that y'all do. I think that it's super important for fathers to do things that challenge the boundaries as a unit. That's really cool that y'all get out there or working together as a team, or maybe y'all are competing against each other to see who could do it first. But like all that's really necessary for life. I don't think we do that enough now.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because I know like way back when the family unit was everything. You hunted together, you lived together, generations were together, and it was a unit. And we've really seen a breakdown of that where families are not struggling together in fun things like that.
Yeah. Yeah. And you bring on another point that I wanted to raise too. Something that I really, really respected and super appreciate from my dad as well too, was that, he always made it a priority that we would have a family vacation every year.
Mm-hmm.
And I know a lot of people growing up that did not get that, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I was very, very fortunate to be able to do that. And it didn't have to be anything extravagant, as long as we all got together for a couple of weeks, got in the car, went somewhere,
Mm-hmm.
whatever it was, right? And this is a big thing with my wife and I that we do with our kids as well too. We always make sure that we have family vacation at least once a year, right? And we bond and do things at 24 hours a day, right?
Yeah.
during the vacations, right?
Yeah, that's really interesting that you bring that up, because I've never like sat and thought about how my relationship with my parents furthered when we went on family vacations. My family was the same way. Every summer we went camping, and I can remember they're some of the best memories that I have.
Yeah.
Being in a tent, it's pouring rain, there's lightning all around, you're wondering if a tree's gonna fall, like whatever. And like some of those memories are like the best memories that we have.
Yeah, for sure.
And a lot of that's missed that as well. They'll think like, oh, we need to do this huge extravagant thing. I need to take you to Disney World, buy you a pony. That's not what it's about, in my opinion.
No,
Those
no.
little things that's necessary.
Yeah, yeah. It's like, we love just having the weekend getaways even with our kids, right? We'll just go somewhere like, just a small like little getaway, like at a small hotel or something in a nice quaint area, and we'll check out the area, do a little shopping, go for breakfast, whatever it is, right? Just hang by the pool or whatever, if the hotel has it or whatever it is, right? It's the change of scenery that really helps. Hey, I'm seeing a picture of you and is that you and your little guy there?
I'm not quite sure what happened. I just like the thing just dropped. Was that? I don't know which picture you saw. I'll have to watch it back in the recording and tell you. I'll say it was either my son or my daughter. So cool. So what's like one last piece of advice that you have for dads out
For me, the biggest thing, Shane, is be the example you want your kids to be. They're always watching, no matter what you think, right?
Yep.
And you're the biggest influence on them. You and your wife are the biggest influence on them.
Yep. And they pick up everything.
Yeah.
Everything. It's funny to look back now and see how many behaviors I do at my dad.
Yeah.
Even like little odd things that he does, like just how the way like he would organize something and straighten like something up on a desk. I've caught myself doing it, be like, I remember Dad doing that. I remember that. But man, they pick up everything and they don't let you forget it. They learn it.
Yeah, and as you get to the older childhood stages of life, remember the kind of what you said earlier too, that we all go through these phases, and despite you having taught them, they might want to go against what you said, right, to learn for themselves. But eventually, if what you've taught was a solid foundation, like you said, they'll go back to it, right? They're like, oh yeah, that was just a dumb phase I was going through. And, you're right. And I've had the same thing happen when I think about my parents as well too, right?
Yep, and it's so important that we set that foundation. What are they going to return to when they hit a struggle? Are they going to see the calm that that your dad portrayed for you, or are they going to see when they hit a struggle? Are they going to blow up and have a huge fit? So important for us dads. Coolly. Hey man, I want to wrap this up. I want to say thanks for being on here. Let the folks know how to get a hold of you, whether it's through social media or however, whether your health and fitness business or whatever. Let the folks know how to get a hold of you.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, best place is look me up on Instagram, Al Kaburis Fitness. I'm there. From there, you'll find links on how to do that in terms of like health and fitness and stuff. And yeah, and I try and share things there from not only health and fitness, but dad life, dad
Mhm.
things, things us dads like from movies to video games to different things, whatever else,
Yeah.
whatever it is, I try and share.
Well, awesome, brother. Thanks for being on. I really appreciate it. I want to say enjoy the rest of your vacation.
All right, man. You too. Thanks a lot.
Cool. Thanks, brother. Appreciate it.
Cheers.